Facilities and Safety Committee of the Board of Trustees, Harlingen Consolidated Independent School District, held on this date of April the 5th, 2002, beginning at 4:05 in our lovely administration building. So, at this time, I would like to go to agenda item number 2, the update on local funded projects presented by Mr. Oscar Tapia.
Yes, thank Mrs. Fleurier, Dr. Nayola, members of my colleagues and members of the audience. The first project we're going to talk about is the local funded projects that are outside of the TRE. Is we're doing some tiny home construction projects at one of our high schools, South, part of our CATE program. And we have started this project with, they've ordered materials. They have a class, they have about 4 periods. One of the periods is from Cardinal campus that gets bused over to South. And one of the other classrooms has about 30% kids from, it's a little bit mixed from both schools. On this program, the kids are being taught how to read blueprints and specifications. They're taught how to use hand tools, power tools, and there's some of the tools that they're taught, general carpentry tools, how to use them, make sure they use them safely, make sure they use safety equipment. And the project, once they learn all those skills, the project will start with, there's a trailer that was bought that the tiny home will be built on wheels, on a frame. And the first step is to do the wall framing and roof framing, which is part of the curriculum that they're going to do this spring at the school, and they've already started that work. At the end of the semester, next fall, they're going to take the trailer over to Harlingen High School to do the electrical work, and then when they're done, they'll bring it back to South, and where the students will do the plumbing and HVAC work, which is where those programs are. And so the entire tiny home will be finished by the spring of 2023, and then it'll be marketed to be sold, and we'll talk some more about that when we get there. But the floor plan was from TM Frame Systems that they got. This is the floor plan that they're working on. It's got a little dining area, a little countertop for 2 seats. It's got a little kitchenette, a restroom, and steps up to a loft area. Also has a washer-dryer area. The upstairs has a little queen-size bed. And so what they're doing is the trailer there on the top left, they're going to put the wood floor first. That's the deck. It's a tongue and groove plywood, 3/4 inch standard. But the materials haven't come in, as with everything else in our industry. Everybody's waiting for materials, so as soon as it comes in, they'll do the floor. Once they do the floor, on the right side, you'll have the frame. The picture shows a wood frame, but they're going to do a metal frame. And then next fall, when they get all the infrastructure in, the plumbing, wiring, and so forth, it'll go to the bottom left where they'll put the sheathing on the outside and finish the roof. And then at the end of the day, the bottom right is the complete structure with windows, doors, complete roof system, and ready to use. Interior renderings, you can see there on the top left, you have the little stairs going up, you have the little kitchenette, the restroom in the back, and you can see the loft on top, which would be the queen-size bed area. And the bottom has a section of the kitchen where you can see the fridge and the microwave and sink and things like that. So they have, this is what the kids are all working on. So this is the actual trailer they have at South. They're waiting for the wood to come in. You can see the metal studs. And then up against the wall, they've already constructed the walls with the doors and window openings. So once the plywood comes in and they put the plywood on, then those walls will be put on the trailer to construct the walls on top of the wood. They'll get the wood frame for the roof, and they'll probably stop there. I did tell Mr. Tijerina, the instructor, if you finish the walls and the wood, don't leave it outside, because if it rains, the wood will get warped and it'll ruin the wood floor, so they'll have to put it inside. And I go, oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, because during the summer it's going to sit there in the shop. So that's where we are with the Tiny Homes program. We're excited about it. Hopefully next month I can show you some pictures of if the wood comes in, the floor and the walls on the trailer, and show you the progress. So that's where we are on this project. Any questions on this program for the kids? Yes, Greg.
So That's so cool.
Yeah.
What about hot water? Is there a water heater, and how do they do that?
There would be a small, there's not much room for a water heater, but they have what they call Insta water. It's like a heating element that you plug into the wall, and the water runs to it, and it's a hot heating element. Think about your coffee mug, your coffee pot. You put the water in, and when it comes out, it heats it up right away. Well, this is designed to have instant hot water. I don't know if they have one. I'll have to check when they start doing the plumbing phase if they're going to install one of those.
Would you back up to see the interior of the plant? So is there just like a bathroom facility only, or there's not there is a shower? Wow.
You can see on the top right, you see the toilet fixture, and then you have a shower and a sink. Let me go to the floor plan.
How wide are these?
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's the floor plan. It's 8 foot by 24. On the right side, you see the 32-inch. That's a shower. It's got the toilet and the sink.
It will have it because you have a washer and dryer, so it's going to have it set
Yeah, it's
up.
going to have probably one of those
Yeah.
Insta heat.
Unless you plug into a water facility somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to put a hose or something.
And Oscar, how long is it going to take to complete it? Did you say? I'm sorry. Missed that.
Because they're still waiting for the wood. Once they get the wood and they do the floor, then they'll do the frame. They're planning to finish that by the end of this semester.
Wow.
And then they'll move it to Cardinal campus, and starting the fall, the electrical kids will start installing the electrical system. And then when they finish that, they'll send it back to South to do the plumbing, and then the HVAC, which is a little split unit.
So because we're going to end up selling this, correct?
Yes.
So when we sell this, it's going to be sold with the trailer hitch and everything. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you getting a kind of a waiting list of people that would want to buy this? Because these things are going to go pretty fast.
I think so too.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the conversations that we're having with Mr. Tejerina, because, one of the ideas behind this was around, students working together and recognizing that there's different aspects of our apprenticeship academy that has to come together to create this product. But once we're ready, one of the discussions that they're having is, and how do we calculate what kind of price we're going to put on this? Because it's not just the equipment and expenditures, but you also have to think in terms of time, right? So if they were doing this project on their own, what is an appropriate cost for something like this if you were selling it and incorporating all of the different pieces? And so they're starting to have that conversation. Granted, we're still at least another semester away. Our hope is that if possible, that they can get it done by the end of the fall semester, latest early spring. But the conversation around what is a projected cost for this. And so we've gotten a little bit of publicity on it. The news and the paper did a little article on it. But I think as it starts to take more shape, I think exactly what you're saying, people are going to start saying, well, and how much are you going to sell this for?
Yeah, and with real estate just going crazy right now, this thing's going to sell. Shoot, the first thing I was thinking of that is
You want to buy
house for
you want to buy
my
one.
pool.
Yeah.
It's great. You're doing a great job, Oscar. I mean,
I would just like to also say thank you. I think that this is huge.
Yeah.
We get very excited about our really big buildings and everything we're doing. This is really, I think, foundationally important. Way back a long time ago, we used to build houses and sell a house. And it was an ongoing project way back when Ralph Jennings was in charge. And then we stopped doing it for a long time. And I am so proud, Dr. Noyola, of you and your staff coming up with it. Good job, Oscar and Ken and all of you. I think it's wonderful because when you look at it, tiny as it may be, it covers right and incorporates all of the skill sets that they need to be learning. And I would, I think, shoot, you can build one a year and keep going for a long time to Javier's
This is
point.
the end thing right now, the tiny
Right.
homes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it was, to your point, Mrs. Fleury, we did have the discussion about a home, but we also recognized that a home would not take a year, right? Especially if we're doing within classes. And so as we were discussing, there was two things when this concept came up. One was how do we bring depth to our CTE programs, bring real-world type of experience for them. But also, how can we create a project that can be completed within a year? So that children really feel the experience of a completed project. And so starting from the beginning, from conceptualization all the way to realization. And so a tiny home just made sense in that they would be able to see all the skill sets, all the pieces that have to come together within the apprenticeship, within construction, but be able to complete it within that year span. And so we're super excited. The kids have been excited. I think that as it starts to take more and more shape, it's just going to gain that much more momentum.
Well, I think it's wonderful, and I think, and isn't Shane involved at all, some of
Yes,
this too? So
Shane's actually the
kudos-
one that's working
that's
with the
doing it.
CT
Kudos to
department.
Shane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
And
creative.
all this is being funded through the Kate funds.
Exactly, Kate funding.
Kate
There you-
funding,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go. Well, I think you're onto something that'll
They make these
continue.
nationwide, and I think you can find what kind of price they're charging. And, I mean, they may be, the quality may be somewhat different, but I don't know the ingredients, but it'll give you some idea of what these
Yeah,
kids.
so we'll have the accumulated costs for the project, right? And we'll probably establish a minimum price that we're gonna offer it, but I think it might be better to auction it off.
Auction it off.
And we auction it off, you're gonna have some bidders coming in and, just bidding it because the kids, constructed this.
Yeah.
So I think, we would be able to recoup quite a bit of the monies that we invested.
Yeah, I think you'll recoup 100% of it.
And then some of
Great
them.
idea.
Yeah.
And it'll allow itself to keep funding itself
Right.
as we move forward, so
Good
super
job.
excited.
Okay, moving on to the next project. This is another Kate program that we're starting off here with the Culinary Arts Program. We're expanding the culinary beyond what they have at the high schools, which is more of a home economics, a minor fundamental culinary. This program here would be more of the practicum level at the senior, maybe high junior, senior level, where they actually get more of a full culinary kitchen experience. And we're going to be utilizing the old Memorial Kitchen here next door, which we call the Annex now. Ms. Baker was using that as a kitchen serving kitchen for some other schools, but they've moved to another location, so this is going to free up that facility for the culinary program. We've got GMS Architects, David Monreal, is helping us with this. I think the funding source on this one is also Must monies
Must funds.
that we've used here. David Monreal is about 75% of the design done, and we also have a kitchen consulting we're working with. And just to show you this is the current layout of the old kitchen. The area in the center are fixed pieces of equipment that are under the kitchen hood that has a fire extinguishing Ansel system. You have the walk-in cooler and freezer in the back, and you have dry storage and the sinks along the walls and prep areas and things like that. So what we're planning to do is renovate that middle area more, keep the kitchen hood area, but the part just underneath, convert that to an open teaching space with tabletops so they can gather several students, and do a serving area on the outside, which is the old dining hall, because a lot of the employees that work there at that facility, two-story facility, a lot of employees, and we also have visitors because parental involvement is there, where they can actually be able to sell some of the food they prepare out of this facility, and merchandisers and serving lines and things like that. So this is the first rendering, kind of a bubble diagram that the architect has done, where the new pieces of equipment are labeled, that we've actually started ordering some of this equipment. And where it says kitchen is a hood in the middle, and then you have a table under it, then there's a big open area, that's where the teaching would take place in open tabletop type areas. And you can see the bump out towards the dining hall, and the architect has a preliminary rendering of what that would look like. It would look something like this. Would be outside of the kitchen, which is the serving and selling area. It won't be exactly like this, but it'll be a similar concept. So we're hoping to complete the plan, the design here in the next couple of months, bid it out, and hopefully award it in the summer. So any questions on this
Yeah.
program?
I just would like to comment, Greg, may I?
Sure.
This reminds me so much of what some of us were able to see in Nashville, Tennessee, when we went to, they responded to some problems that they had in the area and came up with these really creative campuses. Oscar, you were not here with us then, right? Or were you?
He was, but he didn't go on the trip.
Okay, but you can get going through.
no.
One of them had, and you know, and it's interesting, this is an even better facility than what they had. And they partnered with a well-known, like the Lubies type of area, remember? And so the students were learning all sorts of skill sets, including financial ones too. They also had a banking area in another place. And it seems to me like we're kind of moving in that direction with the building that we're doing. And it may be Shane once again that's bringing, but that is bringing all this together. But, you know, it's a whole different approach to education. And it's a whole different approach to CTE as well. And it's much more integrative in terms of bringing the CAPE programs into the campuses. Like the banking program was actually the bank for the students, and they used it as their bank during the lunch hour. And the culinary arts, I'm very excited about this. It's like a new direction for the school district to be going in. So kudos to all of you that are doing, this is really a great approach.
Oscar, on the first one and the second one, are you all partnering and maybe you'll, with TSTC? And let me ask you, like on the small tiny home, so that maybe the students could get some continuing ed hours out of this, so that they get something? So if you partner maybe with TSC, they give you some continuing ed hours, and not only are they working on a project, but they get a certificate, and they can use that when they, you know, go for a job. Also on this one here, maybe working with TSC or any other college where, I don't know, because I don't know their culinary arts programs, but I mean, probably ours are way better than theirs is anyway. But I do think it would be good to see if students could get something out of it.
You know, actually, the culinary arts teacher at TSCC was in on the early phases of
Good.
this design, and so that was the first person we went to.
Okay, good.
Be a good handoff to when our students finish to get over that program.
One of the thoughts behind doing it out of the annex was, one, there was already a kitchen that had a framework, and so it was just about making it conducive to this work. But also, you know, we have a lot of staff in that building. And so it's going to allow for, just like at the hospitals and so forth, where the staff themselves can take advantage of this little restaurant cafeteria that's happening in there. We also had a conversation around how else do we maximize the investment, and so we had conversations about being able to utilize this kitchen in the evening as a teaching kitchen, where even opening it up to our community to do some lessons around healthy eating, or even we talked about even the possibility of doing Zoom kinds of sessions where somebody can teach a recipe or whatever it may be, and be able to do it via a Zoom setting. So I think, Shane, y'all are looking at the possibility of how to equip this space for something like that?
Yes, that entry area, Oscar suggested we level that out, which would allow us to put a camera there. Just down the hallway is our Media Arts and Communications Academy.
That's right.
And so they could live stream a cooking class and we have parental involvement right across the hallway. And so it's the perfect space because of those extra folks that are over there to do a studio approach to them. And like Dr. Nayola said, this is a business. This is going to be one of ACISD's first businesses, because you're going to involve the business academy, the marketing kids, the media kids. I mean, there are going to be several different pathways involved in this business.
Great, great.
All right.
Can you put special needs for this too?
Bobby. Here's my glass.
No, it's not working. There. Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move on
Show the tiny home.
to the ESSER-funded projects.
Both business endeavors.
These are the units that we bought through the buy board with the Dakin, Train, and Carrier companies. And there were a lot of chillers that we ordered through Austin, Lee Means, Rodriguez, Stewart, Places of Allah, and some rooftop units at Crockett, Jefferson, Sam Houston, and South. And the only ones that have come in have been the Lee Means chiller did come in time to do it during the spring break week. And it's important that we get spring break or summer because there is some downtime that we need to do the work. At Jefferson, the units came in, our staff installed those. And the chillers for Austin Zavala have come in. They're at the shops of the vendors, and they're going to be planning to do the work here in April. The chiller for Rodriguez was projected to late April, and now it's been moved to July 1st, just because it's a back order with these type of equipment. And the rooftops for the orchestra hall at Harlingen High School has also been moved to June. And this one we're hoping to get earlier because we have a temporary chiller on wheels that we've hooked up to provide them AC because the old system just shut down and no longer operable. So we have a rental unit keeping them going until this new unit arrives. So as soon as school's out, it'll come in and we'll install it.
May I ask a question, Greg? Oscar, I apologize if you have explained this already, which you probably have as we've gone along. But looking at the list of the chillers, I'm struck once again that it's it's very comprehensive in terms of some of our newer schools and some of the oldest schools that were ever built in the Harlingen School District. And so I'm wondering about the lifespan of chillers. I'm wondering, would you explain again, please? This is a real mix of age. And it seems rather odd without understanding how all of these could go wrong at the same time.
Well, given that we have 34 school sites, in any given year, we'll have chillers going out. But Austin, for example, Austin's a very old school. They actually have 2 chillers, and we're replacing one of them. They kind of get staggered every 5 or 10 years, so that we don't have to do them both at the same time. Lee Means, that school's 15 years old, and the 2 original chillers are already worn out. The type of chillers that are spec'd is important. Sometimes the engineers want to put the best on the market. They have all these coatings, but they get 25-30% more expensive. We don't have the budget, so we put what's standard in the industry. They used to last 18-20 years. Now they're lasting only 15 years. So we're going to have to pay extra to put the more high-quality units so we can go 20-25 years. These chillers are outside. They're air-cooled. They're not inside. The ones inside can last 25 years. So all these air-cooled are outside, and they don't put them inside because now you have extra additional square footage. So it's a way to try to meet your budget to build new schools. Rodriguez, how old is that school? 18 years?
Yeah, about 18 years.
18 years, maybe 20 years? Oh,
No, about 18.
18 years. Those are the original ones, so it's time to replace them. 18 outside units in the air, especially in our environment down here. That's really what you're getting, 15 to 18 years now. Stewart Place has 2 of them. This is one of the units. And Zavala it's time to replace it. It's probably 18, 20 years old. Then the other ones are rooftops. These are units that are up on the roof. So that's really why.
We could probably assume that we've been regularly, every 15 to 20 years, changing out the chillers on these schools that are 100 years old so that the Rodriguez, the newer schools, 18 years is a short lifespan in a 100-year-old school district. So we've been replacing them all along, is that what you're saying? But
Right.
we're getting a shorter lifespan now.
Right. They used to last 18 to 20 years. They're lasting 15 to 18 years because of the materials that they use nowadays to build them. But there's some
Yeah.
special coatings or different materials you can spec. But historically, they're just very, very expensive. But now it's justified to spend the extra money to get an extra 5 years out of them.
Well, we have to do what we have to do, but thank you. I appreciate that, because it did seem to me like we were getting shorter.
And this
Also,
was-
I'm kind of, what gets me nervous is all those chillers, are they going to be available? Because with everything that's going on,
Well, that's why we're seeing that instead of getting them in 3 to 4 months, we're getting them in 6 to 8 months now.
sheesh, that's,
And the more
That's everywhere.
This is nationwide.
Yeah.
The more people put orders in, the more you're going to get backlogged. So it is a little concerning. And these are some of the other purchase orders we have for some other units here that we also are working on. That's the Lee Means chiller that we replaced, just some pictures of what the outside chiller looks like. And Jefferson, these were the new units we installed as well. On the roofing, we've hired Megamorphosis and Janak Architects to do roofs at the two high schools, Vela and Long, Austin, Bonham, Bowie, Dishman, several elementaries there, as well as some window and doors. The fenestration are the openings in the building envelope. And so we've negotiated a fee with the architects. We got the contracts to the attorneys. We're getting them back, sign them, and now they're doing their field work. They got to go. There's a lot of field work that they have to go do to identify what is the scope, I need dimensions. We have our old drawings in our office that they have to they check out our old blueprints and get all the information from there, then they return them. So there's a lot of work that they have to do, and that's where we are right now on these two projects. And these are ESSER funded, so it didn't come out of the district's money. So this is really good, good opportunity, about $7 million worth of work here. Any questions? Move on to the TRE projects. Bogus Stadium, we're 99% complete. There's just a couple of little minor punch list items. We had a meeting last week with the contractor. There was some little threads that need to be cut. There's a couple of lines, field lines that are a little crooked and they need to adjust them. And there was a couple of stains that found out, we thought they were burnt marks, they were glue marks. They've cleaned that up. There's a cover that we have that's an underground connection for data or electrical that we couldn't find, and we finally found it, so we need to put something to be able to identify with a hook or some pull thing to be able to open it when we need to, because if not, nobody's going to know where it's at. So little things like that. A little bit of damage on the parking lot that the contractor did that we're going to try to work out how much they should pay for the damages, things like that. So we're just about done, and the field looks really nice. There was one area that was discolored on the sideline. The white looked more beige. They took it out and they replaced it. So we're happy with the work, and we walked it with Coach Davies and Luis Solorio and some of our maintenance guys. We also got training on the new sweeper that is designed to maintain this type of field. So we're pretty much done on this. They're already using it during track meets. And one comment we got back is that normally during track season, when it gets really hot, the kids want to hang out and lay on it. Well, it was too hot, so they'd go in the bleachers. Well, with this thermoply coating, the pellets, it's about 15-20% degrees less, and the kids were all hanging out and laying on it, and nobody complained that it was too hot. So it's a big improvement from the field that we used to have. On the Early Childhood Center, this is the old Keys that we're converting to an Early Childhood Center. The architect is Mr. Piercy. We just awarded the contract to Holchamont for $1.1 million. And they are submitting their building permits. They got their contract in, their insurance and bonds. So we had a pre-construction meeting last week, and they're ready to start. As soon as they get the permit, we'll issue a notice to proceed, and they'll begin the work. The floor plan shows out some bump outs for restroom additions, since it's going to be kinder and pre-kinder. On the bottom, there's one restroom, but in reviewing the budget and we decided we can afford to add in the extra one, so we're going to move that bottom restroom to the right between two classrooms, like a Jack and Jill, and add a second one, so it'll match the top one. So we have monies to do that because we're within our budget. Other than that, they're renovating some of the office area, doing some painting work. They're adding a window to all the classrooms from the hallway, so you can look in. The doors are going to have a window as well, so there's two windows that you'll be able to look into the classrooms. Some work in the dining hall with some carpet, so it'll be used as a multi-purpose room for meetings. Kids can use it as a mini gym, and there's a stage, so there's a lot of exciting things that we'll be able to do inside the building. And just to show you what Keys looks like, on the left side is where those additions are going to be made, and on the right side is the other side of the building where those other bump outs will be made. That's the only work you'll see on the exterior. Everything else will be on the interior. That's the playground in the back for the child care that we had there for the babies. The teen pregnancy center was there, and they're going to be relocated out, and this will be expanded out. The basketball courts you see there will be taken out, and that middle courtyard has pavers that are all uneven. All that's going to be torn out. And this is a company we're working with. It's called Echo. And they did this outdoor designs for the two facilities we saw in San Antonio. We really liked their work. They gave us their contacts, so we're working with them on the outdoor spaces, and those are some of the ideas that they have, the different type of play and learning settings. You can see the legend of all the different things that we can do. So they're kind of asking us, what do you want? Here's some ideas. And there's some samples of some of the plant palette that they can use. We need to kind of guide them what kind of materials we want, local native plants and vegetation. Large play equipment, these are some examples of some of the equipment that we can use. So we need to tell them what we want. Swings and other play equipment, these are some ideas of some of the work that they've done. And it doesn't have to be these, it could be other ideas. If we don't like any of these, we can ask for some more samples of what's out in the market. Dramatic sand and water play areas, these are some examples of what can be out there. And art, project spaces and music, there's some examples of some things that we'll put out there. And there'll be some sand areas, some gravel areas, some artificial turf, things like that, and stamped concrete areas mixed in where all these play areas and learning spaces will take place. So that's where we are. And there's some garden beds, storage, and benches, examples of what we can do as well. So we're working through that. Once we finalize what we want, then we're going to utilize a local landscape architect to do a bid package, bid it out, so we can do this on a separate contract. So we're still working through this piece, but we should be getting pretty close to finalizing it. Lori and Carmen Alvarez are very involved in working with these designers.
This is another project, to Javier's point a minute ago, that the community is going to go wild over. This is really a good idea. Really a good idea. We have people that want to be on a waiting list already.
Move on to the next project, which are their marquees. Had a meeting this morning with them. They are already getting their permits from the city, and they're getting job packets for each site. That includes the site plan, the drilling of the footing location, the electrical, and everything, and the design of the marquees, logos, and things like that for every site. They're going to email that to me, so they're ready to start production. And it's going to take about 8 to 10 weeks by the time we start seeing some of those units here. But in the meantime, they'll get the footings and any electrical work out to the areas where the signs will go. And the Golden Rule Signs is from up north somewhere, and they've hired industrial signs from Mercedes to be their local project managers. Those are the sites where we're doing there's 13 sites where we're doing the new marquees. Most of them are stand-up, but there's a few of them that are ground signs where we're just tearing out the old guts and putting in new LED technology for their signage. These are their existing signs. Ben Mylan had a digital one, but it's that old digital, the big dots, and you can't really do a lot of graphics on it. And all the other ones you can see are the old type with put up the letters manually. They're not digital at all. So all these will be replaced.
Digital.
Example of some more. My favorite one is the Secondary Alternative Center, really nice sign there. Probably our maintenance guys did it, but
Yeah.
So they're going to get a new sign, so we're excited about that one.
That's good.
And the STEM Academy, we have a wrap around the old St. Paul church that we signed that they had there. We put a wrap on it. Well, we'll get rid of that, and they're gonna get a new standing sign. Those are the existing. What they're gonna look like, these are the ones we did last year. Zavala, South, Harlingen South, and Gutierrez got new digital signs. You can see the graphics are really, really nice. And so these are an example of what they're gonna look like when they're finished. And an example of a few, this is Coakley, Dishman, Long, and Sam Houston have those ground signs. So these are the renderings that we're going to be putting in there. And the schools worked with our graphic designer, Roland Gilbert Ansandua, to design these. So we're really, really excited about these projects. So it looks like they're finally moving on the production, and we'll get them installed during the summer. The STEM Academy, that's an example of what that one will look like.
I thought that was Shane.
Any questions on the marquees?
Looks like Shane.
That is Shane there
It
being used
looks
as a
like
model.
Shane.
Model. Good model.
First Responders Program. This is a firefighters and paramedic academy that we're going to be relocating from, I think they're south right now, to the old Hawkins building that we bought, what, a year and a half,
That's
2
a
years ago?
great idea.
On Oklahoma Road? No, is it? Yeah, Oklahoma Road.
That's a good idea.
We're advertising this project for bids. Our architect met with our staff as to what they wanted in it. This is the old building, and it's gonna have a lot of interior work done. For 2 classrooms there on the top. They got restrooms on the left, there's storage on top, and they got an administration area, offices, a conference room. That open area will be used to store the racks for the firefighter equipment. And they'll actually, with the large garage doors, they'll be able to back up the ambulance we have on the parking lot at south. You can see the paramedic unit. They'll be able to store it in here, as well as a small fire engine unit. Do we have one, or we borrow the fire department, Shane?
Fire? Yeah, we don't have.
We don't have a fire truck, but we'll have a paramedic unit in there and firefighter training. It'll all be moved here. So this project is projected to be awarded at the May board meeting. Bids come in April 19th. So that's where we are on that project. Any questions?
That's a good idea.
And that's about the end of my projects. We'll move on to the construction funds and financial report.
Can I proceed, Mr. Powers? So you do have here on the last page 53, the construction of funds report, through March 31st, 2022. Year 1 of the column 1 is the year 1 through 6 of the budget, $83 million. And year column 2 is year 7, another $10 million. What we spend year 1 and through 6, and year 7. So we have spent about $88.2 million. And we have a surplus of about $4.7 million. Any questions from the committee?
Any questions?
Quick, can I?
Yes, sir.
Julio, I think we've talked about this before, and I know you have your own way of keeping track of the fund balance and that kind of stuff. At a high level, could you kind of give us an idea, now that we have this different system of, essentially program system of essentially paying as we go for renovations, for significant, upgrading of facilities, things like that, sometimes doing new facilities as well, things like that. At a high level, I don't need exact dollars, I don't know, but I would love to understand sort of what's the impact net to the fund balance, in your opinion? What's the relationship with that?
So yeah, we've generated through the first 7 years of the TRE, $70 million, right, $10 million a year. And then to that, we added the maintenance tax note that we issued out about 3 or 4 years ago, another $10 million. So it's in excess of $80 million that we have generated that really has gone back towards facility improvement, either through new construction, such as UTRGV, Treasure Hills, a lot of renovations and maintenance, HVAC projects. And if we didn't have that, we would have probably already been ready to issue new bonds. So it's impactful to our fund balance because we really haven't tapped into our fund balance for this.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and right now, I mean, not exact number. What is our current fund balance, más o menos?
It's around $45 million,
Okay.
more or less. Yeah.
And then last question, then I'm sure Javier has more questions. My last question, and maybe for you, and maybe Dr. Nayola, but and I understand this is on air being recorded, and this is open session, so be careful with your answers here. But do you see in your mind, and maybe this is more of a Dr. Nayola question, but can you think of any reason right now or in the foreseeable 5 to 10 years where we would need to have another bond initiative? I'm just curious as to on the operation side. I mean, somebody could ask me, and I have an answer as well. But I want to know from the district, what is your view on? Can you foresee the need on the horizon for us going out to the taxpayers for a bond?
No, Doc, a lot of the things that we're doing, and you know, Oscar was going through a number of the items that we are putting into place right now. And we are able to fund that with TRE. Certainly ESSER has helped, but TRE has been able to fund that. Now, unless we were going big projects where we were building another high school or something that really would substantially call for large amounts of monies between the TRE and certainly the investments that Julio has made and so forth, and just the opportunities that have existed out there to fund a number of these initiatives, I really don't foresee a time when we will. Most of the things that we have done, we've been able to cash pay as we go with all of these items. ESSER has, I think, been an added boost in that a lot of our maintenance items that were taking up a lot of our TRE funds have now been able to be passed on into the ESSER funding. And so that relief has really created an opportunity for us to add a number of new initiatives that we might have potentially had to dip even into fund balance, maybe not a bond, but even into fund balance. But we've been able to sustain these additions without going into fund balance and without looking at bonds. So I think we're in a good place.
You know, and I, not with the bond, but kind of a little bit related to what the doc is saying. I think the lowest we've had since I've been on the board, our fund balance was about $24 million.
That's about right. Yes.
And I think right now is probably one of the highest we've had it in a while. Are we okay with a lot of the ADA that we're losing right now? And is that something that we need to look at in terms of maybe tapping into our fund balance to cover the gaps that's happening right
Yeah,
now?
so absolutely, I think ADA is very important, you know, as we project out, you know, this year and next year and the following year, enrollment as well. You know, we're going to be okay the next couple of years because of ESSER. With ESSER funds, you know, we can supplant, you know, those dollars and pretty much move local dollars over to federal dollars to be able to stay whole on our loss of ADA in our local funds. So we're able to do that at least for the next couple of years. And it just depends on the enrollment and as we move forward and the average daily attendance. This year, it has taken a dip in the average daily attendance and enrollment. But, you know, next year and the following year, yeah, we think enrollment's going to trek upwards. And so is the average daily attendance. So that would certainly help. But as far as our fund balance, it is probably the highest that we've had it, you know, in probably ever. But also keep in mind that, you know, so is our budget. So it's still, you know, still about, you know, 2.5 months of our operating budget or fund balance. And you know, between 2 and 3 months, you know, that's a pretty good place to be in as far as our fund balance. So I think we're fine there. I don't think we're going to, you know, have to dip into our fund balance anytime soon.
And Julio, and to that, I remember that they didn't like us having over 35 million.
Yeah.
But to your point, is it now, because of the expenses and everything's going on, it's okay for it to be as high as it is?
Yeah, so it's always been a percentage of your operating budget. So the $30 million, you know, maybe 10 years ago was 3 months worth of operations of our annual budget. Now, since our budget has grown, the 45 is around 2.5 to 3 months. You
So
know, worth of
we're still okay with in terms of states looking
Yes.
at that?
Yep.
What's our total budget, including federal?
It's over $300 million, yeah.
It's
about-
now over 300. And it's that number they use, a percentage of that, 3 months,
No.
or no, this? Or the
They
state?
use a percentage of our local funds. And
Okay.
local funds budget is around, you know, $230 million.
Got you, got you. Okay.
Any other questions? No other questions, we're adjourned.
Awesome.
right, at this point in time, I'd like to bring the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee meeting to session. It is now 5 o'clock, and this has been posted. And we'll start off with our teacher residencies in HCIT, Ms. Dr. Veronica Cortan. How you like that, doctor?
Dr. Muniz, board members, Dr. Niola, senior team, or senior administration and audience. I am here this afternoon to be able to share a little bit of information on our teacher residency program in HCISD. Definitely an exciting time for us. So I'll talk a little bit about the teacher residency program. First of all, I would like to have a huge shout out to UTRGV. They never cease to amaze us, right? As we've been working with them in our teacher pipeline and really looking at education and the future of education in our district, they have been a wonderful partner. So where we are today is that we are embarking on a teacher residency program. You've heard a little bit about residencies in our district simply because we launched our principal residency earlier this year. This program is very aligned to that type of concept. Essentially, what this will do is that our teacher residency will provide a very unique opportunity for qualifying candidates at UTRGV who are invited to apply, who are also current paraprofessionals in our district. When we think about a teacher residency program, we are targeting paraprofessionals because as they jump into that residency, they need some type of background knowledge with classroom instruction. And so very excited about that. The other thing is that, you consider all of the work that we've done around teacher pipelines. This is going to certainly strengthen our teacher pipeline, in particular to UTRGV. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey of the teacher residency, because everything we do in our district has to be organic, and it has to have some type of rationale. And so if you think a little bit about how we have done teacher pipelines and how we've been preparing for today, it really started back in January 2016, when we sat down and we asked our design team, how can we rethink and reimagine teacher preparation? And so that was the guiding question back in January 2016. I will tell you that we continue to ask ourselves that question even today. And so we started with just combining forces and thinking a little bit about dreaming big about teacher preparation. And out of that work, we have our Step Up program that came to fruition. That has been a huge milestone in all of this work. Hard to believe that it was in spring of 2016 that we brought forward that whole model and started recruitment. And so later that summer, we brought in our first cohort, which we have several of our step-up candidates that we've hired, and they continue to thrive in their roles. So you can see along that timeline where we got to where we are today. So in January of 2022, we had conversations with our dean from UTRGV, and Dr. Niola and I have been in communication with them. We meet about every other week, and we think about teacher residencies and what that model can look like. So definitely an organic type of timeline there. So you may be asking yourself a few questions about what are the elements of the teacher residency program. So first of all, with the teacher residency, in working with the university, there are certain areas and certain qualifications that current seniors at UTRGV have to have before they can qualify for this program, because they have to be in their senior year, first of all, and secondly, they have to qualify to be part of a student teaching cohort. And so essentially what that looks like is they do a course audit with the UTRGV students, and they have to have completed certain courses prior to qualifying for their student teaching experience. So if they qualify, if they're a senior at UTRGV, and if they qualify for student teaching, then they are going to be able to apply for a teacher residency. If they're accepted, then that allows them to continue as a paraprofessional in our district. So essentially it would be a paid residency. It would be a full year of a residency where we strategically place them in assignments that align to their areas of certification, but they have a shoulder partner. They are in a classroom with a certified teacher, and their student teaching experience looks a little bit different than the traditional. The whole concept, if you think about a residency model, the whole concept is that they start off with a shoulder partner, but as they get further into their residency, those mentoring teachers in this case would pull back a little bit more, so that in the spring, when you walk into those classrooms, it's more of a co-teaching model. And so our student teacher is very much a part of that classroom, and in the spring gets to really shine with their mentoring teacher. The other important element of the teacher residency is that they have to have a mentor teacher that will be assigned. And I'll talk a little bit about mentor teachers and the value with doing that. So what would the experience look like? The experience would be a one-year placement with a teacher mentor, and that's pretty traditional in our student teaching. What is unique about this whole entire process is that just like with any of our leaders in our district, when they come into that placement as a resident, they will create an individualized development plan. So from day one, their mentor teacher will know areas of strength and areas that they want to refine. That will be aligned to absolutely what we need in the classroom as a teacher, but it's also going to have to be aligned to our leadership definition, because that's kind of who we are at the core. So that's going to be unique. Every resident will have an individualized professional development plan, and their mentor teacher will help them in creating that and certainly executing that. The other thing is that in a typical student teaching assignment, they are in one classroom with one teacher. In this case, there's a lot of value to having diverse looks into different classrooms, right? And so as a resident, they will have the opportunity to go into different classrooms and observe and learn from various teachers on their assigned campus. And so there's a lot of value to that part and creating that as an addition, because we want them to look at different teaching styles and make sure that they know exactly who they are as they walk into their classroom. And then the other thing, I spoke a little bit about the co-teaching model. This will definitely be, if you think about a studio school, this is a studio classroom that we're creating. It's a learning classroom where the mentor teacher is developing their resident, but the resident in turn is also adding value in that classroom as well. So that's big picture with the experience. So I want to talk a little bit about leveraging teacher mentors and building teacher capacity. You think about all the work that we've done around building teacher capacity, and you think a little bit about this whole concept of Holdsworth and everything that we're working on. When we created the teacher residency program, we knew that yes, it was an opportunity to create a very robust teacher pipeline, but the other part of that is that we have extremely talented teachers in classrooms who love being teachers. They're not interested in going to a different role. So if they're really those master teachers, wouldn't it be great if we could look at those master teachers and leverage their talents to build the future of education? With that, though, comes an investment in that mentor teacher. So part of our teacher residency model is that, yes, we are going to strengthen the teacher pipeline, but it also gives us an opportunity to capitalize on those very talented teachers that we already have in the classroom. They get to pay it forward, but we also, as an organization, get to build teacher capacity. So you think about instructional coaches. Instructional coaches do a fabulous job with developing others. So this would give our mentor teachers the opportunity to do the very same thing. So that's part of our model that we're looking at. So as you can imagine, this is a pretty nice, a sizable undertaking with the university. And I have to say that the dean continues to look for partners to bring to the table, and she continues to innovate with us. Right now, the next phase of our development is to embark on our planning year, where we would really assess the pipeline, the teacher pipeline. And the way that we're planning to do that is that we are going to have a Zoom session with every single one of our paras interested in continuing their education. You think about UTRGV and all the announcements that they've made with this tuition advantage program. We wonder if the paras really understand, like, what does that mean for them? So the first thing that we want the reason we want to get in front of them is because we want to tell them about the teacher residency program. That's critical that they understand the opportunity. But barriers like financial barriers are very real for some of our staff. So to let them know this is how you can maximize the tuition advantage program, and walking them through that with the university right there at our side is going to be really important. The other thing too is that we have a gym in our backyard at the collegiate high school. When we created that partnership, we said someday this will be filled with classes in the evening where our people can actually take advantage of that. So when we think about building the teacher pipeline, it's about identifying paras who want to be part of those cohorts, and then creating classes that work within our schedule as a district, and they can do it right here in Harlingen. So that relieves the stress, them having the stress of tuition, first of all, and then secondly, travel. Because travel to Brownsville and Edinburgh is not easy for some of our employees. And so that's what we're looking at right now, is really assessing that, bringing them in for Zoom sessions and doing an orientation where they will be very informed about this opportunity. The other thing is that this is just the preliminary stages of our development. And so we want to make sure that we capture different levels of voice in our organization to talk a little bit about the common experiences. I think of our Teachers of the Year, and when you think about that group, they have great input into what some teacher residency activities should be. And so we're wanting to do that. And then that last bullet is going to be really important. As we work with UTRGV, everything has to be planned just right. And so once we assess the pipeline and the interest in the district, then we're wanting to bring the university here for our employees so they can start doing academic advising. Really, really exciting work. The biggest part of this work is that you think about the education pathway at Collegiate High. And we could very well be graduating these high school seniors, and with the right academic advisement, they can come back to be teacher residents with us. And then furthermore, they could come back and be our very own teachers. And so we had this conversation, Dr. Neola and the senior team had a conversation about thinking strategically about filling vacancies. Like, you think about the teacher pipeline, you think of paras, academic advisement, working with Mrs. Scoggin and her department to say, where are the greatest areas of need? We now can have the potential to create our own teacher pipeline that is driven by our needs. So there's a lot of different things going on with the teacher residency, aside from the fact that we know that coming into the world of education as a teacher can change trajectories for families. And so that's just a byproduct of what we're doing. Definitely excited about the work. And like I said, I can't sing the praises of UTRGV enough. And just thinking about this whole concept and how these things are coming to fruition has just been amazing. And so with that, I will open up to questions and conversation from our committee.
Any questions?
I just have, great presentation and exciting. The only thing I was gonna ask is, these mentors that's gonna lead the way, are we compensating them?
So we're looking at that, and so
Veronica,
so that's a process.
Let me tell you why I say that, because
Sure.
right now, teachers are being asked to do a lot of things, and when
Right.
you have rock star teachers, everybody gravitates to those rock star teachers, and they put more and more and more and more responsibility on them. And even though they love their job, they're passionate,
Sure.
it's overwhelming. And so I really would appreciate you all looking at, anytime the teachers have to do something
Sure.
that is outside of the scope of what they're already doing, compensate them. Because, you know, attaboy, it's not good enough anymore.
Right.
And so if you're gonna be asking teachers to do additional things, compensate these individuals, because then they're gonna work that much harder for us. because in the absence of that, I know our intent is good, and maybe at the beginning, they're going to say yes, and they're excited because, they're intimidated by administration, but at the end of the day, they don't want, I mean, right now, we're at a time where teachers are doing things a lot more.
Sure.
And it's not just these, it's teachers all over the state, all over the nation. And we're seeing a lot of teachers exiting out for many, many reasons. So what we don't want to do is have great ideas, great systems in place, but have the teachers continue to do that without
Right.
compensating them. So if you haven't thought of that, or it's in the works, I would really please tell you, consider paying these teachers, because we don't want to burn them out, and we don't want to
Right.
take advantage of these rock star teachers that are already doing more than they normally were doing.
And I'll tell you my only hesitation, so you are correct, right? We've thought about that. My only hesitation is that, that's a process, right? And so when we bring stipends and things of that nature into our budget, that's a process. And so I didn't want to cross the line and say, yes, we're going to do that without going through the process. But yes, we have been looking at that. And we have a great way of gauging what that compensation should look like because of our step-up mentor teachers. Now we have a great handle on what are the number of hours, what does that look like, and what is that in the scope of a year, what is your role? And so our step-up cooperating teachers have been a godsend to think about what does compensation look like? Yes, professional development and investing in them, but then also what is the financial aspect of that?
If I can add to the conversation, playing the devil's advocate, I totally agree with you. Our teachers are overworked all across the nation, probably across the world. But I will say this, having interns at the pharmacy level is amazing. When I work with Texas A&M, University of Texas, UTRGV, they bring the best students, and it sounds like you have a system in place to bring the best students, and these students are amazing. They actually help and relieve the stress and the workload because they're so reliable. And of course, that comes with a couple of weeks of time of creating this relationship. But they can do so many things at the pharmacy level. I'm only making some assumptions that would probably be the same at the teacher level. And they'd actually want to have those people in there because now I've got 2 teachers and 2 hands and working on assignments and teaching. It's actually a beautiful thing at the pharmacy level, and I'm only assuming that it's like that at the teacher level.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm not saying not to pay the interns, pay them or not pay them. I'm saying the teachers that are
The
teaching them.
mentors.
And so,
And
it
that's
is-
that's what I'm saying.
It is extra work, Bobby. It
They don't,
is extra work on these- on
and
the
I'm just
teachers.
using an example. The universities don't pay me to do that, but I love having students there, but then again, I love teaching, right? So it would probably help.
And that's kind of why we're looking at this whole model, right? With our step-up cooperating teachers, that's exactly what they've said, right? You have an additional educator that can do small group work and that can do interventions and things like that. I think a lot of it is weighing, like, what is the true commitment? Because a residency is very different. And so weighing, like, what does that truly look like? And what is the commitment, both time and emotional commitment, right? On behalf of those mentor teachers. So, but yes, we'll make note of that.
I think this is a wonderful idea, and it's so timely that we're doing it, and thank you. As you say, we started the process without realizing it several years ago, and so this is just wonderful, and we're really capturing, I think, the relationship and continuing relationships that can be developed with UTRGV, so that's all to the good, all to the good. I just had just a question,
Yes,
and that is, that as I understood your presentation, we are going to be working with several groups to move them in through the process. One being from our own paras, and trying to get the paras, help the paras decide and then move into becoming college students. And it is when they are college students at an upper level that they would be able to attempt to qualify to become, our what are you calling them?
Residents, our
The
teacher residents, yes.
Our residents, thank you very much. So in that so that's, I was just affirming that I understood that correctly.
Perfectly said. Yes, you're exactly right.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question, therefore thereunto. The qualifications, that's pretty tricky, right? I mean, I'm assuming that'll be interesting to see as you develop them, how that works, because I think it's critical. I think it's critically important, and I'm really pleased that that's what you're talking about. Because in Harlingen, we have, thanks to you and your team largely, but we've really established a level of quality in terms, expectation of quality in our teachers, and it's become difficult to even get a job in Harlingen. And so I think those qualifications you're going to set up are really important, because there's no guarantee. I'm saying all this as a question. So there's no guarantee that even if we nurture and help people go into the college experience, that any of these people will be automatically taken into a residency program, right? And so at what level is that done?
So they will still be able to complete their education program. So you are correct. So we have a cohort of 15 paraprofessionals that go in, they enroll, and they're in their program. If we only bring in 4 or 5 residents, then the other 10 are not just left there stagnant. The other 10 will still complete their program. And so they're still able to do the student teaching process. It just looks a little different. I'm gonna address, maybe this is one of your questions, about how we're gonna bring them in and what that looks like. So in one of the bullets, we did talk about interviewing them with a process that's very aligned to our teacher candidates. And that's because we do want them to feel like, what does that look like and what does that feel like? So as a teacher applicant, they will already be familiar with the interview process. Part of that, like I said, is to give them access to that. But even if they're not going to come into the teacher residency model, we'll continue to nurture them and make sure that they get to the finish line so that they come back in as a teacher. And so just because they don't get into the teacher residency doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to complete it. It's just that that particular group will have a very unique experience with the year-long teacher residency. But we'll still continue to support them. Right. They'll continue with their education. They'll continue to participate in courses in the evening here in our building. And so all of that doesn't change. What does change is the student teaching experience.
Well, I would just like to say that when I taught at Long Elementary, I had a wonderful para who was working with me, who became an outstanding teacher several years later, just outstanding, Julie Ramirez. And I think you're really onto something here. Congratulations.
Dr. Neal?
Well, and just to add to that, Mrs. Fleury, and really that's where the conversation started, when we reflected on these last 2 years, having gone through the pandemic, and we had teachers that were out dealing with COVID for whatever reason, and so we had classrooms where we needed to fill. And we also were in situations where there was just not enough substitutes. But every campus principal will tell you that the first person that they went to, even before substitutes, was their paraprofessionals. Wow. Because those paraprofessionals knew the campus, knew the students, knew the teacher, and the teacher expectations. Yeah. And so we had times when our paraprofessionals were serving as long-term substitutes in classes at their own campus. And so we recognize the value that our paraprofessionals contribute to our school district, and we know what they bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And so when we can help those folks cross that finish line, that often is not possible for them, because as student teachers in a traditional student teaching program, you have to quit whatever job you're in.
Right.
Give up that source of income to do a semester of student teaching. And so what we tend to find is that student teachers or that paraprofessionals that are there will either not go through a student teaching experience and instead will go through some type of alternative certification program, which we recognize student teaching is the best place for people, right? But it's just not doable. So in this model, we will be able to keep our paraprofessionals employed, get them across that finish line, and potentially be our next teachers in our system. And we can really create those robust pipelines across our entire district.
Brilliant.
So just exciting work. Doc, I think you were going to.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I missed the first part, but I've gone through the slides here. This is awesome, the next steps here of this program. I guess a couple questions. There's this organization called Educators Rising. That's a student organization. I don't know if it's good, bad, whatever. I've heard great things about it. It's nationwide. And it's really to kind of help develop middle school and high school students. It's a student-led organization, but it's got national benefits and pathways to really shape future educators so they can kind of, it's an organization that's student-led. I'm sure they have teacher sponsors or whatever, that kind of stuff, obviously, right? Like all student organizations do. But I've heard great things about it. As I don't know if something like that or if there's something better that we can look into. Because at the end of the day, my question was, how can we make that program at UTRGV more robust by, again, developing our own pipeline? And that's why we have Harlingen Collegiate High and that kind of stuff. How do we help ourselves by creating a more robust pipeline through things like Educators Rising or others to really get these folks inspired and they're really kind of like shaping themselves as they go through middle school and high school, if that makes sense. And so that's one thing, and I was hoping you can look into that and see.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the second question, the other question, or my first question, I guess that was more of a statement, but is how do you all feel at a high level, and I'm asking you as, just as a school board member, how do you all feel about the development, of the university sort of experience and I guess teacher training sort of curriculum and innovation, and how do you feel like that's evolving? Are they sort of stepping up to the challenge at UTRGV? Are they not? Are they lacking? Is there a problem there that we need to address as a school district? Because I will remind you, we kind of have a secret weapon with Dr. Cavazos because he's now, a consultant and working there. I don't know if we have to engage him as a consultant to help us here or not. I don't know. That's y'all's decision. But I mean, he's kind of in that space doing that work and has a lot of trust at UTRGV. I mean, so if there's something lacking there in the College of Education that we need to address, I would say that we need to push hard to push the envelope. And so I'll let you answer the question. How do you all feel about the evolution of that program?
So I'll tell you, I think there's always room to grow, right? So I'll say that. I will tell you that even with teacher residency, we had to hold our own and say, this is who we are at the core. This is who we are as an organization, and we can either go fast alone or go slow with everybody else. So I do have to say that we have created a model that is going to look and feel very different than other districts, simply because we made a commitment to stay true. And I have to hand it to Dr. Nayola as well, because in those conversations, we kept on coming back to, you think about our leadership definition, like that's driving who we are, and it's driving everything that we are doing. And so if it doesn't fit in, we need to come back and reassess and do things the Harlingen way. So I will say that first of all. Secondly, it is evolving. I'll tell you, one of the biggest celebrations is that Jennifer Maldonado works very closely with Collegiate High. And I don't know if you remember meeting a gentleman by the name of Dr. Art Brownlow. When we had our joint Apple training at the beginning of the year, I think there were eyes this big, like, oh my goodness, I'm a professor, how am I gonna do this? Apple is coming to me with all these great things, but I'm a professor, right? I'm gonna tell you that Art called Jennifer Maldonado and said, I'm gonna invite you to come and see the products of these professors, because it worked. So I do think that there are great people at the university really, really pushing. And and I think we're moving in the right direction. I will just say that we have to navigate a lot of that. We have to navigate a lot of it, and not because of a lack of wanting to partner with us. We just have to navigate it because I feel like we do things right in Harlingen. Nothing against other districts. But when we do these things, they have to be strategic, they have to be organic, and more than anything, they have to be aligned with who we are at the core. So are we moving in the right direction? Yes. Do we have to push quite a bit? Yes. We're meeting with Dr. Alma Rodriguez about every other week. Dr. Neola and I have a standing meeting with her and some of her team members, 3:30 on Mondays, so that we can make sure that we continue to push the envelope. And things like getting a cohort for us, for our district, all of those things, they're coming along, right? We do have to continue to work that partnership.
And I would also ask you all to look into, I mean, I know College of Education, obviously is the right fit for this, but there are other colleges there in UTRGV where we need school, I think they call it the School of Health Professions, or I think the College of Health.
Yes.
Most universities, it's College of Natural Sciences, but UTRGV, I think it's something like the College of Health Professions. I say that because so many kids are pursuing those career paths nowadays. And there's several people there that you should meet. One that comes to mind, Dr. Janet Martinez. I know because I got a call from BISD folks that she teaches some stuff that's actually beneficial for teachers on social emotional learning. It's incredible. But I think, and I know I got to meet her and the dean when I spoke there and wearing another hat for a innovation symposium they had. But I think that we should sort of tap into some of these resources that can benefit our teachers and that could benefit the teacher prep program
Sure.
here. We don't necessarily have to just stick to in the one box, there's other people that really this is bread and butter to what they do as well. And some of those folks that graduate from the School of Health Professions and things like that, guess what? Become teachers, right? So,
Right.
I think we have to maybe be a little bit innovative. I don't know that the only candidates have to necessarily be from College of Education. So why would that be?
Sure.
Sometimes you for the content and things like that, experts, you want to sort of think differently about that.
So we are going to have to branch off this coming year from the College of Education, and I'll tell you why. Because the pipeline that we are creating right now is solely elementary. And so our next phase of the work is to get secondary. We have a big need in secondary as well. We also have a big need in special education. And so while the School of Education has been great, that's only going to create a pipeline at the elementary level. So we're now needing to go outside of that. I will tell you, Dr. Kabash, all in, like anything you need. He's got his seniors ready to help. He's bringing that. He has done an outstanding job. I will also say that today's Tuesday, right? Yes. Yesterday, our meeting with Michael Aldape, he has brought in the College of Health Professions, I think is what it's called, right?
Yep.
On fire.
Yep.
And we can prepare something and send that to the board just to bring you up to date with what we're doing with Tina's campus. But this yesterday, we mapped out the Summer Bridge program. And so they're doing a great job with that as well. So open to bringing our kids to their labs and to work with their students. Wow. And there's a lot of, you think about the benefit of that. I'm sure they love hearing from us, right? But they really will get into hearing from college students. Like, that's who they want to be with. And of all the departments that we work with, they are like on it. Again, we have standing meetings with them as well, too, on Mondays. Monday's our meeting day, I guess, right? But Michael Aldape, he does not let grass grow under his feet. And he's a true champion, I think, of this whole process. And anytime we hit a barrier, he comes right in, clears it up, brings the right people to the table. He is phenomenal.
Well,
So-
it sounds like you're all over it. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I had those points.
And thank you for these recommendations. We'll certainly look at that because we've been looking at, like, how do we do this at the high school level? And then how do we create excitement around the middle school level with being an educator? There's a lot of our kids that know from elementary, I want to be a teacher. Great, you're in the right place. So thank you for that recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Gaetan. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much. And so our next topic, I think is a very, one that we like to talk about. International Baccalaureate Update, Dr. Joseph Villarreal and Melissa Parker. Great topic. We've always loved this topic.
It is. It's an exciting one. So
And I know, Joseph, you only have 20 minutes, man. I'm
Nope.
sorry.
Hey, we got this.
10 minutes for questions.
No, we got this. But first of all, good evening, Dr. Muniz, committee members, audience members. So can you believe we started this IB journey 4 years ago? Started in a design team, and it just turned into a movement of IB and here at HCISD. This entire time, the journey's been filled with excitement, hard work, but definitely some collaboration, because that was important if we wanted to get IB off the ground. We are proud to be a district of 2 elementary IB campuses and 1 middle school IB campus on the horizon. This evening, Mrs. Parker and I will be presenting on where we are with our elementary campuses, our International Baccalaureate campuses, as well as where we're at with Vernon Middle School World Languages Academy, and how very soon they too will also be an IB campus. But before I begin, I want to recognize some important people here in the audience, because you're going to see a lot of great things in this presentation, a lot of highlights of the work that's being done, and it wouldn't be possible without these people. And so first of all, I want to recognize Ms. Hortensia Juarez, our IB consultant. We have Ms. Ginger Armstrong, principal of Houston Elementary Dual Language Academy, IB World School. Ms. Magda Gonzalez from Austin Elementary, IB World School. And Ms. Arlita Mess, principal of Vernon Middle School World Languages Academy, and soon to be an IB school. So a lot of excitement there. So of course, we always start with our strategic plan, and I really want to look at goal 1, because that last part of it speaks a lot. It says resulting in maximum achievement for all students, because that's what the IB program does. But you're going to see something in this presentation that looks at some of the work that's being done by our students with special needs. And so I really want to emphasize where it says all students, because it is benefiting all students when we look at our strategic plan. So we have 2 programs in our school district. We have our elementary program, and IB refers to the elementary program as a primary years program. And so kind of a big picture explanation of what the primary years program is it focuses a lot on the development of the whole child as an inquirer. So what that means basically is the students figuring out who they are as a person, how they think, how they feel, how they react, but also how to question things both in the classroom and outside the classroom. And then when I move on to the middle school one, which is called the middle years program, we'll look at the difference between the 2. But what you see there is kind of the IB graphic that summarizes what the primary years program is. And when you look at the center of it, it says the IB learner profile. And so that kind of encompasses what IB hopes to accomplish. You want our students to be knowledgeable, you want them to think, you want them to be communicators, and so that's kind of the learner profile. And it's not listed exactly what those attributes are, but there's a lot, but that's at the center of it all, right? What do we want our students to be when they get through the IB program? To accomplish that, you have to have an approach to teaching and an approach to learning that intertwines. Because it's very important that the teacher understand what the teacher's supposed to be doing, and then we also understand what the student's supposed to be accomplishing, and those things are going to intertwine. And we accomplish that through our subjects that we teach in school, but also very importantly, we accomplish that through transdisciplinary themes. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Parker, and she's going to speak to what those transdisciplinary themes are, and that's where we're bringing all the subject areas together to accomplish IB. Ms. Parker?
So as Dr. Villarreal said, we do have transdisciplinary themes in the PYP, and they're listed here. They are who we are, where we are in place and time, how we express ourselves, how the world works, how we organize ourselves, and sharing the planet. These are the framework for the primary years program. And so I want to give you some examples of what the students do at the elementary school. And so here we have lots of pictures to show you. So here's an example of who we are. And here are some students that have created their projects about who they are. Because as Dr. Villarreal said, that's a big part of what the PYP is, and then the students learning about themselves and being able to express that. The second transdisciplinary program that we have is where we are in place in time. And so here the students have their collaborating, and they are using their artistic ability along with writing. Writing is really big in the International Baccalaureate. And so they have done a project here by identifying how they see themselves today and what they think that they're going to be like in the future. The next theme is how we express ourselves. This one is a Texas Leaders project, and so the students did research on very important people who they thought were important from the state of Texas. And so we have Barbara Bush, we have Barbara Jordan, we have Henry B. Gonzalez, Buddy Holly, I think, is there. Former President George Bush is there, and so you can see, Walter Cronkite is there. So this is very interesting. This is research they did on how we express ourselves. Again, a lot of written work there, the research, and again, the arts. You'll see that is a common theme throughout a lot of what we do in IB is infusing the arts, whether it be graphic arts like this, whether it be music, or some other form of art. This one is how the world works, and this is about natural disasters. So the students took the world map and they chose different natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, and you can see that they took some string and identified where these natural disasters were taking place across the globe. On the right-hand side, you'll see where the earthquakes is. They also developed a QR code. So if anybody's interested in passing this bulletin board, they can picture that. They can take a picture of that QR code with their phone, and they can see the students' research. So they don't have their research posted out there. They just have their beautiful work, and you can look them up later on. So again, the technology infused into this particular program as well. This theme is how we organize ourselves. This is a huge display on the campus. The students are looking at the economy and how it drives our community. They identified the types of transportation and the types of employment, and they have direct correlation of the types of transportation that we have in our community and the types of jobs people can get because of the transportation they can get or they cannot get because maybe they don't have that transportation. So that's some research that some of our students are doing right now, and they have this posted. They even had over to the left, my camera wasn't wide enough to get it, but they had something about SpaceX. That seems to be one of the common themes as we're looking at some of the projects that the students are doing. They're predicting that we're going to be transporting ourselves in some kind of spacecraft. And so that was off to the side, and so they're doing a lot of using a lot of creativity in their thinking in what they're doing. And this is Sharing the Planet. This is a project that is done by one of our special ed units. You can see that the globe they have is a heart, and it has the different nations for how they can depict that. So Sharing the Planet, they are doing a unit on recycling. And so you can see that all of their little posters there have something to do with recycling, and they even have some art projects where they took some materials and recycled them to make little bugs. Some of them I think are there on the bottom, but they had some others that were made with bottle caps, and they had butterflies and ladybugs and some little bees, and they were really cute, and those are all over to the side. And so even our special education classes and our program fit very well into the International Baccalaureate program because it is an all-inclusive program. And so one of the attributes that we want to see in our students is communication, not only communication amongst their peers and in their classroom and in their cohort, but also communication in the school community, and that includes their parents. And so one of the things that both of the elementary schools have moved towards are student-led conferences. So this is a picture of a little girl showing her dad her portfolio. And so the students identify their strengths and their weaknesses, and they set goals. They talk to their parents during these conferences about where they're at. They show them their grades. They show them any assessment data that they might have. But they also talk to them about what they've achieved already and what their hopes are for achievement for the rest of the time. So if this was in the fall, they would talk to them about the spring semester. And so these have been hugely popular. We also, the upper grades do a digital portfolio, which is really, really neat. We just happened to show a picture of a younger age child and her portfolio that she has there showing her dad, but the digital portfolio is also very awesome as well. And the students put it together so they know where they're at all times. That has been an exciting addition this year. One of the requirements of being an international baccalaureate school is for the 5th grade students to have exhibition. And so Austin Elementary had their exhibition right before spring break, and so there's a picture there. You can see the students have layers of soil and the white tigers. They also, it's very important for the students to be global minded. And that begins by being community minded. And so what our students, along with their exhibition, did at Austin Elementary is that they raised money for our local Humane Society, as well as, I think, a Save the Sharks program, right? Save the Whales program, sorry, sharks. I was looking at another project with the sharks earlier. So Save the Whales program. And so along with their exhibition, and as they were doing their research, they raised some money so that they could be contributing citizens to our community and to our world. So exhibition for Sam Houston is this coming Monday and Tuesday, April 11th and 12th, and we got a little preview there of what one of the projects is. And so this particular student or group of students have done a project on bullying, and so they have some key concepts there, some lines of inquiry that goes right along with the IB program. And so we're really, really excited to see the exhibition at Sam Houston on Monday and Tuesday. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Villarreal. We're going to move on to the middle years program and share with you what we're doing at Vernon Middle School.
So if you recall, we spoke about the elementary program, the elementary program, and a lot of it had to do with the student, right? And who the student is, who they think they are, how they think. Now it's all about encouraging students to now understand who you are, and now how do you connect with the real world, right? And things that you're learning in school, right? So I already know who I am, I know how I think, now how do I connect to the real world? And that again is going to be accomplished through these transdisciplinary themes that we're going to look at right now. So Vernon right now is going through the process of IB authorization, and we'll share a timeline here towards the end of the presentation so you can get a better understanding of where we're at. But again, it's looking at that approaching to teaching and approaching to learning and how they intersect, but looking at the bigger concepts and the global concepts so that students can learn how they contribute to the world. And so now Ms. Parker will look at those that framework.
So this framework includes teaching and learning in context, conceptual understanding, approaches to learning, service as action, and language and identity. So the approaches to teaching and learning, here's a wonderful graphic that kind of forms a Venn diagram in the middle so that you can see the overlapping parts of that, and I'll let you take a look at that. But the approaches to teaching and learning are deliberate strategies, skills, and attitudes that permeate the teaching and learning environment in IB schools. These approaches and tools are linked with the IB learner profile that we have been talking about. So the attributes of being an inquirer, being a reflector, being a risk taker, being principled. There's 10 of them, and so those are just a few of them, but these approaches are directly linked to that. Teachers use them to foster student learning in the above areas to prepare them for their current and future educational and life journey. So here's teaching and learning in context. This is a project that the students did on energy roller coasters. And so teaching in context is aimed at enriching students' communication skills. Here students were artistically depict their version of an energy roller coaster by putting personal context to the concepts such as potential and kinetic energy. Those students are more likely to make connections between the form of communication, and in this case, they used art, to the concept being taught. The next one is conceptual understanding, and we certainly want students to be able to apply what they learn across the various domains. Students in this picture have identified personal strengths of their own and are using concept maps to relate that to who they are as persons. And again, service as action. This is a thread that is through every single international baccalaureate program. Our students collected money for the Team Walker Pete Foundation and volunteered to help during our community Harlingen Marathon. And so these are students from Vernon Middle School, World Languages Academy, who are have their action in service. And then language and identity. We have several different pictures here showing some of the different activities that take place at Vernon. And because IB's focus is on international mindedness, language and identity are major components, thus making Vernon World Languages Academy an excellent school for students to further their mother tongue and other languages that make up their identity. So the road to authorization for Vernon Middle School. There are different phases throughout the IB journey. The first one is a consideration phase where we as a district figure out and consider what we want for our school, for our district, as far as IB is concerned. And so we have a very clear path in from the two elementary schools to Vernon Middle School, and some plans for the future as well. The next phase is a request for candidacy. So we did that in 2019, 2020. IB decision on candidacy, so we had to submit an application and request for candidacy, and that came back to us in the summer of 2020 as a yes. Then we are currently in the consultation process. The International Baccalaureate Organization assigns us an IB consultant, and so we've been in the consultation process with her since the fall of 2020. Actually, she will be here next Monday and Tuesday for our first on-site visit with her. Her consultation will consist of letting us know where we're at in the process. She will also give us some homework, and we'll have to work on some of the things that she recommends between now and her return in the fall. Once she returns in the fall, hopefully we will get the green light to request for authorization, and that should take place in December of 2022. And so we're hoping for a verification visit at Vernon in the spring of 2023. And we're hoping for IB decision on authorization during the summer of 2023. And once schools are authorized, like we have our two elementaries, Austin and Houston, they get a review every 5 years from the IB organization to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So we're really excited. We're clicking right along in this timeline. We're really excited to welcome Ms. Chris Stevenson next Monday and Tuesday at Vernon for our consultation visit.
So I just want to close it out by thanking, everyone here, including our board members, including our staff members from the campuses. I know they do a lot of work in their PLCs at Austin and Sam Houston to make sure that they're continuing with the IB process. And then at Vernon Middle School, we have something called IB Mondays, and so it's all dedicated, the PLC is dedicated to IB and learning about IB. I was there this past Monday, and they were just getting ready for their visit. They're ready. They were learning about learner profiles, grading, organization, student recognition, a bunch of information that they're gonna have to be able to show to the consultant. So we're real excited for all the work that's being done there at our campuses.
Awesome, wonderful presentation. Any questions, comments? Nolan's going last. No, I'm playing. Go. I'm joking. Go.
I just a quick question about how do y'all look, because I hear there's a lot of parents really interested in, our dual language schools these days. And that, I don't know if that's, you can corroborate that or not, but how would that interplay with our IB schools that are also getting some gaining popularity? Or is there overlap there? I'm confused as sort of, are how many of our schools are also dual language that are IB? Can y'all sort of address that, and how do we look at that? Because obviously we want to give our students and parents options to do both things. How can we accomplish that? If you could, I don't know if that's can you help me understand that?
Sure. So we have our Sam Houston, right, Dual Language Academy there, and so they're also the IB school. Okay. And so IB is all about language as well, right? And students learning as many languages as possible, right? And there it happens to be your English, and it happens to be your Spanish, and so those go hand in hand. So IB doesn't, one doesn't replace the other. Okay. It just coexists together. So you have the kids learning, the IB concepts and their learner profiles, whether it be in English and Spanish, depending on the language of instruction that day.
And is that at all? Is that the only one that's both or overlapped or not?
Correct. Yes. Currently.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the students at Austin Elementary, even though it's not a dual language academy, they also are exposed to Spanish. And at both elementary schools, they are exposed to Mandarin. Okay. So we do have multiple languages being taught to the students as they go through the International Baccalaureate program.
Thank you.
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled. It was decades in the making, and decades in the waiting. And so this is fabulous, and I'm so impressed with our elementary schools, and what work you're doing is phenomenal. Thank you for welcoming me up with all the visits. You've been so gracious, and another one coming up soon at Sam Houston. What's happening on these schools that is so impressive to me is the intentionality of everything, because it's really difficult when you've got all these different subjects on the elementary level to teach, and you've got all of these different curriculums, and you've got all the different textbooks, and you've got all the different, it's already a tough job, as you remind us frequently. But to add the International Baccalaureate element is bringing such intentionality to everything we're doing, and it's defining and refining everything that we're doing. And so it's really exciting to me. And the thing that is interesting is that many towns, as did we a long time ago, just pop into it at the high school level, which is totally different. It's all about academic rigor, hardest courses you can take, etc., generally. And yet this is the preparation of becoming world citizens, and a preparation for learning in a way that is much more expansive than what I think we were accustomed to. So it has tremendous advantages that we can see on the surface, but I think the advantages of what's going on underneath the surface are immeasurable. So congratulations, HCISD. I'm so proud to be able to go other places and say we are a district that honors IB and that we start it from the little people up. Thrilled. Can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you.
And I'm around.
I just want to say congratulations. Great presentation.
Fabulous. Both, yeah, fabulous.
Same, I don't have a question, I just want to reiterate that gratitude for all the work that you all are putting at the schools, at your schools, because you can see it, as Jerry said, you can see it on the surface already, but the payout of all this, the investment and everything that we're going to see over the next few years, and we'll see what these students become, not just while they're here, but when they're gone and go on to fulfill whatever dreams they have, dreams that they're creating right now by being exposed to all these lessons. And I just want to congratulate you all and thank you all for doing that for our students. I guess I did have a question. Some of those, like the Texas leaders, do they pick their own leaders, or do you all assign the leaders and then they do the research? Or because I know there's a lot of empowering of the student in this, so I was wondering if they selected their own, like. Oh, okay. Good. And with the natural disasters too, it's great. It's great. Thank you.
Student agency is very big in IB. Students taking ownership agency over their learning.
Thank you.
If I can just wrap both these presentations up really well. Dr. Coitan with the teacher residency program, I remember back when I was on a committee with the School of Health Professions, and we were out, how long ago was that? 6, 7 years ago? 7 years ago. And I remember us being in Houston, and we were dreaming, right? We were looking and visiting schools, and the thought was, what we saw there in Houston was collaboration between the schools and the organizations and businesses around. And we talked about, hey, we need to collaborate more. So it's amazing to be here today, seeing the collaboration now with UTRGV, one of the biggest businesses, in the valley, right? It's a school. And to see that to come to fruition from a dream, it's awesome. And now also, 4 or 5 years ago when I was on TASB, and I was able to visit an IB school and said, why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? When we talked about that, right, Ms. Fleury, and to see it now come to fruition, it's amazing to see this. It's exciting. I'm excited for our students. I'm excited that our principals are excited. I would like to please, if you may, allow us to get them to stand again and acknowledge them, please, because we want for their leadership. Please stand up and let's give them a round of applause. Because again, it's not easy. It's not an easy undertaking, especially during a time where it's so difficult. And to make this, we know where we're at in stages, and we're getting there. So, thank you, principals, for your time and your effort and for your leadership.
Thank you.
Yay, love it.
Next is topics for future meetings. Dr. Noyola.
And so as we move forward, our design work continues to take place. And so as we look at the next couple of months, we will be bringing some of that design work. Tonight, we heard about the importance of that pipeline of teachers and how do we continue not only to retain our teachers, but also recruit them. And so Debbie Scoggin is leading one of our design teams on that work. And so she will be bringing forward some of that information. And then I'll come back to the recognition that you just made, Dr. Muñiz, for our IB campuses, because some of that work is transcending just our IB programs, but is really expanding out across the district. And so we have a design team that is looking at how we utilize data, but how do we take that data and not only put it in the hands of teachers, but also in the hands of students. And so earlier we heard about student-led conferences and how students are owning their own data and sharing that with their parents and so forth. And so Dalia Garcia is leading one of our design teams that's looking at how we look at data. And so she will be bringing forward some of that information and how we are redesigning, how we use data across our district. Again, not just with our teachers and the adults, but also with the children, and then eventually how do we take that and also put that in the hands of parents. And so some really exciting work that continues to enhance what we do in the district. And so we'll be bringing that back to the board in the future.
Thank you very much. Time is 6:04. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.